Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of history's most profound mysteries. We're going to explore the stunning rise of a civilization that literally laid the foundations for modern mathematics, medicine, and astronomy, and then we'll unpack the complex, honestly shocking reasons why that same civilization fell so far behind the rest of the world. It's an incredible, dramatic historical story of how the very founders of modern science experienced a tragic decline.
Look at these staggering numbers. If we look at the Nobel Prize, the most prestigious award given to the world's absolute top-notch scientists in physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics over the last century or so, there have been 488 laureates. But get this, out of all those 488 brilliant minds, only 3 are Muslim.
Now, to put that into perspective, Muslims make up almost a quarter of the global population, 23%. Statistically speaking, you'd expect to see around 112 laureates, right? But the reality is just 3. And here's the real kicker. According to our sources, those 3 actual winners all had to leave their home countries and do their groundbreaking research in the West, simply because the infrastructure for their work wasn't supported at home.
So it leaves us with this massive, profound mystery. How on earth did a civilization that practically laid the groundwork for the scientific method fall so incredibly far behind the rest of the world? Well, to figure that out, we have to travel back in time, far beyond the statistics of today, to a period when the exact opposite was true.
Section 1. The Golden Age of Science. We have to start at a time when the Islamic world was the absolute center of global intellectual achievement. During this brilliant Golden Age, you have to remember that much of Europe was trapped in the Dark Ages, a time when free thought could literally get you imprisoned by the church. But meanwhile, the Islamic world was experiencing this absolute flurry of rapid-fire innovation. This era brought us some of history's greatest scientific minds, individuals whose names still echo through the halls of academia today.
And we're not just talking about minor tweaks here. These were the absolute foundations of modern knowledge. I mean, look at these monumental contributions. Al-Khwarizmi basically gave us algebra. The word itself actually comes from his book's title. Al-Biruni measured the Earth's circumference with 99% accuracy over 1,000 years ago without any modern equipment. Then you've got Ibn Sina, who wrote the Canon of Medicine, a massive medical encyclopedia used as the standard text in European medical schools for centuries. Ibn al-Haytham was over there laying the groundwork for modern optics and the camera, and Al-Razi pioneered clinical treatments and medical ethics.
But, what actually powered this massive explosion of knowledge? It wasn't just pure genius, it was technology, specifically paper technology, which was captured from the Chinese. The Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid built a massive paper factory right in Baghdad, mass-producing paper using water-powered machines. This was a total game-changer. It completely revolutionized the spread of knowledge, allowing books to be quickly copied and distributed across the empire, heavily supplying the legendary library known as the House of Wisdom.
Section 2. The internal decay. But as we dig deeper, we see that long before any foreign army arrived, the seeds of ruin were already being planted internally.
It's a really dark shift. Instead of being celebrated, a lot of these brilliant geniuses began facing severe resistance and horrific persecution from their own leaders, who felt deeply threatened by their popularity and free thought. The historical sources are just brutal. Ibn Rushd was labeled a heretic, tied to a mosque pillar and spat on, while his life's work was burned. The great philosopher Al-Kindi, whipped 50 times in a public market at the age of 60. Ibn Sina had to live constantly on the run in exile. And Al-Razi, that amazing medical pioneer, was literally beaten over the head with his own book until he went blind.
And this physical abuse was soon followed by an intellectual death blow. Around the 10th century, a philosophical movement called the Ash'ari school gained massive influence, and they popularized a concept known as occasionalism. Now, what is that? Well, it completely rejected the scientific premise of natural cause and effect. Under occasionalism, fire doesn't actually cause burning, and gravity doesn't cause things to fall. Instead, it claimed that every single physical event happens only because of direct, moment-to-moment divine intervention.
So think about that means. By adopting this mindset, the culture fundamentally abandoned the very mechanism of scientific inquiry. I mean, if natural laws don't even exist, there's no reason to study them, right? It created this sort of intellectual laziness that actively discouraged people from questioning how the physical world worked. In fact, inquiring too deeply into the how was practically seen as a sin against faith.
Section 3. The climax. Destruction of Baghdad. So this internal intellectual decay was about to meet complete physical annihilation.
In 1215, a truly devastating turning point in human history unfolded.
While some religious scholars inside Baghdad were reportedly busy arguing over trivialities like how many angels could fit on the head of a pin, Hulagu Khan's Mongol army breached the city walls, and they absolutely obliterated Baghdad. They tore down the hospitals, the mosques, and that epic House of Wisdom. The historical accounts tell a chilling story. They say the Tigris River ran black with the ink of millions of destroyed books and red with the blood of scientists and philosophers. In a matter of mere days, 400 years of accumulated human knowledge were literally thrown into the river. It's heartbreaking. The absolute epicenter of Islamic science was gone forever. It was a loss of knowledge so profound that the region never truly recovered its previous intellectual glory.
Section 4. The Great Shift, Rise of Europe. While the Islamic world lay in ruins, struggling to recover from the Mongol devastation, a massive power shift was already taking root in the West.
Look at the incredible juxtaposition on this timeline. Before Baghdad was even destroyed in 1258, Europe had already established Oxford University in 1096 and Cambridge in 1209. So while the Islamic world began turning inward, punishing free thinkers and eventually dealing with the Mongol invasion, Europe was actively building the institutional frameworks that would eventually house the scientific revolution. The global center of learning was permanently shifting gears.
Section 5. The Technological Death Blow. But the true nail in the coffin wasn't just the Mongol invasion or even the rise of European universities. It was a devastating technological blunder made centuries later by the Ottoman Empire.
The math on this is absolutely staggering. When Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press, Europe enthusiastically embraced it. A single machine could crank out 4,000 printed pages every single day. But the Ottoman Empire? Their leaders and scholars declared the printing press haram, or forbidden. For nearly 300 years, they completely banned this crucial technology. Their scribes were still stuck handwriting maybe 40 pages a day.
By declaring the printing press illegal, driven basically by a fear of mass knowledge distribution and a deep distrust of machinery, the leadership severely crippled their own society's ability to share information. While Europe was out there mass printing scientific texts, igniting the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, the Islamic world voluntarily pressed pause on its own progress. They literally let Europe run away with the future.
Section 6. The Modern Reality. And that brings us right back to those shocking statistics we discussed at the very beginning of our explainer.
Today, the cultural fallout of that internal decay is still super visible. According to the sources, we see a strict separation between religious and secular education, with the secular side often viewed with deep suspicion. There's a marked discouragement of ijtihad, which is independent critical reasoning. And the numbers don't lie, Muslim nations today average less than 10 scientists or technicians per 1,000 people, compared to a global average of 41. Plus, despite the massive modern wealth in many of these nations, capital is disproportionately spent on luxury rather than building world-class academic and research institutions.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. The history of Islamic science is this incredible testament to what humanity can achieve when curiosity and reason are championed. But it's also a stark warning of what happens when fear, dogmatism, and technological stagnation take the wheel. To change the future, must society first rediscover that fearless spirit of inquiry that sparked the original Golden Age? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning and keep learning.